Yes, we are.
All right, so once we record it, we'll put it out on the Slack in the group lead so that the ones who couldn't make it on, they can rewatch it. Because I think this is going to be a good one. And this may help some people struggling with when they get at the end of the appointment and the person is like, oh, let me think about this. Or, you know what, this is really good. I really like this. I'm just, you know, I just want to think about this. I want to check my budget. I just want to make sure I can actually do this. I want to make sure this is perfect. But it makes really good sense because you'll get a lot of that, guys. And y'all have a way that I'm overcoming that. So I'll jump into it. Andre, just because I'm looking at you, can you unmute with me? I'm going to have you role play with me for a second, okay? I think it works better this way.
Okay.
All right, so Andre, here's the scenario. You're going to be a client who, a prospect who I sat down with. We're going to do final expense, and then I'll do it with mortgage protection. It's going to be the same exact scenario, just two different types of appointments and two different types of products. But the gist of it is, we just got finished doing my presentation to you. You really, really like the program. It makes sense. We actually found something that fits in your budget and that covers your need, but you're still like, I need to think about it. That happened to you ever before in the field where everything makes sense? You married their need in their budget, but they still got to think about it, or they said, I'm going to get back to you in a few days.
Yeah, that actually happened recently too.
Okay, give me that exact scenario. Treat me, I'm you in that scenario, and then you're the client. So, hey, Andre, I showed you three options. One for $30,000, which would be $153. One for $20,000, which would be $100 even, and then the last option, which is $63, and that's $15,000. Out of those three options, which one makes most sense for you to start with? And keep in mind, we can always increase, but from a budget standpoint, which one makes more sense?
I'd like to do the third option. That one's just more affordable for me right now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so which bank are you going to pay the payments out of? Today is the 12th. Is the 12th a good date to make payments reoccurring each month?
Oh, I have to make a commitment today?
Yes, it is immediate coverage, so it will be effective today. But in order for us to put it in effect, we have to get that first payment. You can choose a different date each month, or is the 12th a good date for you each month?
Yeah, I didn't think I had to make a commitment today. I just want to sort of think about, I was sort of just looking to see if I could get, you know, like pricing on things, sort of see like where I'm at and what it will cost me.
Okay. So what I want to do is I do want to let you know that as a field underwriter, I was able to qualify you medically for this coverage. Unfortunately, the company Americo that we just got you covered through, they ran your prescription check and your medical check. Okay. So there's good news and there's a little bit of bad news, but I like to be transparent. Whenever the company runs your medical check, they have to pay for that. So many people want this program just because it's a great program. However, if they pay for your check, and let's just say we don't proceed and get something in place, they won't allow. I mean, let's say we go back 2 weeks from now. Because how much time do you think you need to make up your mind?
Well, I was looking to start the coverage like next month.
Okay, next month. So let's just say between now and next month, anything changes in your health, unfortunately, you might not qualify for the coverage that we have here today. Now, another hiccup in the process is, let's say nothing changes in your health. This check that we ran, sometimes, and guys, I'm exaggerating, all right? Sometimes what I see to happen is the company has so many people applying So if they run your check now and then they have to run your check again because they have to make sure your health didn't change, sometimes the company automatically denies the coverage. And the reason why is because they don't want to pay for your medical check twice. So then what sometimes happens to have to be done is you have to actually pay for that medical check, and then we have to send it to the company and get that overrided, and then eventually they give you the coverage. So just to avoid that process, if this is something that's within your budget, let's start let's start somewhere you don't have to think about. So I know you're looking at the third option, which is $150. But if you're looking at that $150, then you have to think about it like, let me try to rob Peter from Paul, or let me, move finances around, or let me check my budget. But you're looking at the $100 option, and you're like, okay, I could definitely do that without even thinking about it. Or maybe you're looking at the 63 option, and you can look at that without even thinking about it. Let's start at the 63 or the 100. You have to consider your budget, and then you can take this month or 2 weeks or however long you need to adjust your budget to see if you want to even upgrade it to the 150. The good thing is the medical check is already saved and we have it at least a lower amount to where all we have to do is literally you say something and I push a button and then we increase your coverage without having to do a whole nother medical check. Does that make sense? So would you like to start at the 63 or the 100? Which one can you look at and not think about your budget?
I would say the 63, but what I wanted to do was compare with, like checking some other policies, like maybe AARP or something like that.
Okay, so this is typically, guys, what you want to catch in the beginning. So usually in my presentation, I always let people know I'm a broker in the beginning. In the very beginning, my job is simple. I'm a broker. What that allows me to do is that allows me to do all the shopping for you. So me having Mutual Omaha or me having America or me having John Hancock or ARP or New York Life or anybody you can think of, I'm going to find the most affordable price at the best benefit. Okay? So all your shopping around will be done right here today. And my job is not to be biased or married to any one company. Is to be married to you, the client, and make sure I find the best product with the most affordable price that fits your situation. Does that make sense, Andre?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So that's out the way because you're not shopping around anymore. I'm gonna do that for you. I don't have any obligation to any one company. My job is to get you the best coverage. All right. So that's out the window. Maybe with something else.
I'll do the I could do the bottom option, but can I just take time to think about it? Because I just want to make sure my finances are in order.
So let me ask you this question: if the $63 that you have, which is the bottom option, um, is that something you have to consider with your budget, or is that something that you can kind of afford? Just because earlier you told me, and remember this is why I do the type of presentation I do. I cover everything earlier. Earlier you told me that you have no life insurance and you wanted to get this so that you don't leave a burden behind to your daughter. You also told me earlier that your daughter has her own family, and it would be a little bit of a struggle if she had to come up with 10, 15,000 to handle your final arrangements. So let me ask you this question: is the $63 something that you would have to think about, or can we go ahead and at least get this in place so that way we don't leave that burden on to your daughter simply?
I would say I would definitely have to think about it.
All right, so it's really, Andre, you're really not going to keep getting that. Let me think about it. Because now, let's say you get that. Let me think about it. Let me hit you with
Mhm.
this. Andre, usually it's three reasons that people have to think about it. One, they really don't trust the company or they don't think the company is going to honor their word. Two, you really don't like me. Or three, the price is just out of range. Which one would you say out of those three is what you really are thinking about or considering?
I was being honest. I would say it's just the price.
Okay. So let me ask you this, just so I don't keep showing you numbers and we kind of keep going back and forth. What is the affordable price that you know you don't have to think about that you can afford today so that we can get this started? And what I'll do is I'll adjust the benefit to reach that price and we can revisit to make sure that we can get more coverage if we need.
I would say something close to 50 or even $40. That would be great.
All right. Now I go in and okay, I'm at 8,000 is $44 and 13,000 is 57,000. Which one would you like to start?
Can I start with the 8 and then move it up like you said?
We can start with the 8. Two things I want to let you know is this 8 is locked in. Once we finish this is locked in. This price will never increase, benefit will never decrease. It builds the cash value like we already talked about. However, when we go to increase, we will have to run another check. We just got to make sure that your health didn't change. If your health changed and we need to upgrade, you will never lose this 8,000 that we have locked in. That's the main purposes of us getting something. If something is better than nothing. If your health hasn't changed and your age hasn't changed, we can easily increase to any of those prices. Your birthday is January, so if we increase before January, then you'll be able to keep this next rate of the $100 or whatever, the next rate of the $150 for the 30,000. If we go after January, after the birthday, it'll be adjusted slightly. It costs a little bit more based on your current age. Does that make sense, Andre?
Yeah.
All right. So today is the 12th. Is the 12th a good time to make that payment? Or,
Yeah.
is the 12th a good time to have reoccurring payments? Or would you like a different date to have it come out each day?
No, the 12th is fine.
All right. Let's go ahead and proceed. And we're done. All right, Andre, thanks, man. Thanks for giving me the hard way to go, too, man. You made me dig deep, and I like it. That's kind of what I
Anytime.
want this call to be, is I want you guys to hit me with your worst scenario, um, so that way you guys can see what's going on in the call. Hey, Greg, I see your hands up. Greg, why don't you open up for me? And go ahead, ask me a question.
Okay, so perfect. When you in a house, how many rebuttals do you normally take the client to before you just say, not necessarily give up, but you start to just make arrangements to try and I'll tell you, out of everybody that need to think about it, like I think the numbers is less than 2%. The actual people that come back to you and actually put a plan in force. So when you get that objection, you immediately know, all right, this person is not ready to go today. So how far do you push before you just kind of back off and move on to your next appointment? I normally use 3, but it sounds like you took them to like 4 or 5.
All right, so the only reason I took them to 4 or 5 is because if you're getting a presentation from me, then I highly expect you to at least get something. And the reason why is because I do a lot of my work in the first 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when I start my appointment off, it's, hey, usually, and this is final expense, guys, that's what I'm doing right now. I say usually it's 3 reasons people fill this out. One, they have some coverage in place, but they just need a little bit more to handle and take care of other arrangements. The second reason would be they don't have any coverage, but they want to put something in place so that they don't leave a burden behind to their family. Or, sorry guys, y'all ain't lose me, right? The second reason is that you don't leave a burden behind to your family, or you want to leave a legacy behind to your family, something like a legacy gift. And then the third option is you have coverage, but the coverage is expiring, or the coverage will be lapsing soon. Out of those 3 options, which one are you, Brad?
I'm more so kind of the first one. I don't have coverage, and I'm just looking to put something in place to take care of my final responsibilities.
That makes total sense. Greg, who will handle your final arrangement? Like, who do you entrust to make sure that things are done the way you want it to be properly done?
My brother, Richard.
Okay, Richard. Um, so I'm sure you trust Richard to handle those final arrangements. Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you experienced the loss of a loved one? And I always ask this question, right? Because I gotta find out your why. If I don't know your why, when I get to the end, I won't have nothing to come back to.
Recently, I want to say, I mean, somebody I know, I lost my cousin, 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry to hear that. Wow, my condolences. Hey,
Thank you.
let me ask you a question, Greg. Um, did your cousin have life insurance? Did he not have life insurance? Was
To
that a
be honest
smooth
with you, I don't really know
passing? Or
their personal situation. Like, I don't really know if the family struggled or whatever, but I just
let
know
me ask
that
you
I
this
don't.
question: How long did it take for them to handle arrangements? Was it a quick move, or did it
It
kind
was
of
like
drag out a little?
3 weeks, like 3-4 weeks.
Wow, so it kind of dragged out a little bit. Would you say?
Yeah,
Yeah, all right. So what I would say is typically when final arrangements drag out that long, it's because it's a financial issue where people are trying to get together and you know figure out a way where they can get their loved one put to rest with dignity. So um, I'm sure they wouldn't really talk much about it because it's kind of like an intimate thing, and they don't want to have that stress or embarrassment of people knowing that they didn't have things in place. So I kind of understand exactly why I'm here, Greg, and this is where I get them at. I kind of understand exactly why I'm here because you requested me to be here. You filled out the lead, you talked to me, you booked the appointment, and now I'm in your house. I understand why I'm here. The reason why I'm here is that you want to make sure that your family, more importantly, your brother, is not left with that burden um, of putting you to rest. You want to make sure that you handle your final arrangements and handle your business while you're here and while you're going. Is that kind of, am I kind of on the right lines of why I'm here, Greg?
you spot on.
All right, perfectly. So listen, here's what I'm gonna do today. What I want to do today is I want to take that burden off of you and take that burden off your brother, and I want to put it on the insurance company's back. I want to do two things and two things only, and I need to accomplish these two things with your help. I need to be able to marry your need and your budget. I don't want to be a penny over your need. I don't want to be a penny over your budget, but I want to make sure I cover your full need. If I'm able to accomplish those two things today, Greg, is there any reason that we don't um, take
What
care of the
coverage?
final arrangements and take that?
I don't see why not.
Perfect. I just got your permission to give you a presentation. If I don't get that permission in the beginning, I'm folding up my stuff right there.
Hmm.
So I typically don't get to the end where you got to think about it and do all that. And if they do, I'm going right back to the beginning to where, hey, Greg, you told me that the sole purpose of me being here is that you don't want to leave a burden on your brother. You also told me that if I was able to marry your need in your budget, that there's no reason that we don't take that burden off of your family and kind of handle this situation. So that only leads me to three things. It's only three reasons which you really have to think about. And it's one, you really don't trust the company or know the company, or two, you don't really like me, or three, the budget. And then typically you'll say the budget, and I'll say, all right, listen, I need you to be completely honest with me, Greg. And out of these three options, if all three options are out of your budget, tell me something that you feel comfortable with, that you know that won't put a stress on you today. And let's
Hmm.
start there. And then we can always increase. So even if I walk out with a $40 check, I'm walking out with a $40 check versus walking out with nothing.
Yeah. No, that trust me, that you running 20 plus appointments, you get a bunch of $40 checks, you're not complaining.
You're not complaining. They're going to add up. But I typically don't never walk out of, most of the time, I don't walk out of the house without picking up some type of check, and it's based on a budget. And I literally just had to do that probably about 45 minutes ago before I got here. That's why I'm still in my car. I'm still in the car. I left an appointment. Um, the guy makes 125,000 a year, so I'm showing them the best options, and he's like, "Man, I can't afford that." He's like, "I got a legal situation going on that's taking a lot of expenses." So I'm like, "I'm glad you were honest with me in the beginning. I told you with your help, I'm going to marry your need and your budget. I don't know your budget. You have to tell me what the budget is, and I can work it into your need. And then he gave me a price, and I ended up picking up a $57 check. And we'll probably increase it later down the line. But at least I walked out of the house with that $57 check because I did exactly what I said I was going to do in the beginning. I married his need with his budget.
What about if they say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, hit me.
All right, so let's say, for instance, in this surrounding a client's expectation of, or they don't have the proper expectation, you show them what their budget can afford, but then they say, oh, wow, like, all right, well, I can only, $64 is only going to be $7,000. Like, that's not a lot of coverage.
Perfect. So I say, hey, Greg, here's the thing. Right now, you have nothing, Greg, which means that burden is completely 100% solely going to be left on your brother. Okay. So would you agree that if your brother, if God forbid something happened yesterday, and your brother received a $7,000 check opposed to $0, do you think he'll be upset that he received $7,000 and curse you?
Not at all.
So let's start with the $7,000 because this fits within your need and it covers your budget. It covers some need. And what we'll do is we'll place this now, and if things change in the future financially, or you take some time to rearrange some things or reorganize your budget, we can always increase. But I promise you, your brother's not going to be upset about having 7,000 opposed to 0. So let's get this in place so that way we can leave some type of cushion behind to your family. And we accomplish exactly what we need to do. And let's give you cover some type of your need, and we stay within your budget. Does that make sense, Greg?
Absolutely.
All right. So today is the 12th. That's when I go in with that close. But yeah, I mean, no one's ever going to argue that something is better than nothing. So I just go right back to that. And I make them feel really good about getting something versus nothing. I always make them feel really, really good about that. They never feel bad about getting something versus nothing. They always feel good that they got something opposed to nothing. As long as they, as long as you stay in that budget, they're happy. And as long as they got some type of coverage, they're happy. Any other questions, Greg, or anybody else has some other questions before I go into the mortgage protection close, and then I'll kind of wrap it up there if nobody has questions.
I'm good, thank you.
Anybody else have questions on the call before I get a little bit into the mortgage protection? All right, so Greg, I'm gonna use you a little bit on this mortgage protection, okay? All right, so the mortgage protection cell, I set it up a little bit differently, and I set it up from the beginning. Everything I do is I do all my work through. I do all my work in the beginning. So from the phone call, I'm setting up the mortgage protection. Hey, my job is simple. I'm your field underwriter. My job is to medically qualify you and then give you the information. All right, so when I get in the house, the first thing I say is, hey, like I said earlier, my job is simple. It's just to medically qualify you and get you the information. What I like to do first is I like to qualify you medically first. So that way, the options that I show you, I know you qualify for, because I hate to show you all the bells and whistles of this policy, and then we can't get it. This is an amazing policy, it has a lot of different benefits, but I want to make sure you qualify for the best of all of them before I start to show you, and we have to adjust. Okay, make sense, Greg? You'll say yes. I'll say okay. What I'll do is I run your medical check first with America. Meaning I get you qualified first with America. Once you get qualified with America, I say, hey, listen, there's some additional questions I have to ask, but I'm not going to ask you that right now. There's a lot of yes and no answers. Typically 90% of the people that get through this part where they pass the medical check, they typically get the policy. Unless they have any outrageous things like they're a fugitive on a run from the law. Oh, no, nothing like that. Okay, perfect. All right, so listen, and then I go over the brochure, and I never show them a price. They've never seen a price up until this point. Even though when you run the medical check, You have to hit calculate and it shows the price. At that time, I turn my screen around and they never see the price. And then I run the prescription check. It comes back approved. I go over the brochure. And at the end, I say, any questions? No. Okay, now that we did everything else, now let me give you the best part, the pricing, right? And they say, oh, yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I wanted from the start. Whatever. Perfect. What I do is I take their lead and I pull it over to me. And then I write down 3 different options. I write down the full balance of the mortgage, half balance, and 25% of the balance of the mortgage. And as I'm doing it, I explain to them which each option does. Obviously, the first option is the best because it covers the whole mortgage. The second option is just as good. It covers 50% of the mortgage. What it allows you to do is maybe take, if you have 125,000, take 100,000, put it towards the mortgage balance, lower the balance, which lowers the length of the term, and you can readjust the loan to lower the monthly payment to adjust to your new lifestyle. And then it gives you 25,000 to put in the slush fund or to put into a security account for your security purposes. So that way you have a safety net. Which is just as good. The last one gives you at least 3 to 5 years of mortgage payments. So that way, if you have to adjust your lifestyle, refinance the loan, or even sell the house and downsize, you have enough money to be able to survive and save the equity that's built in the house. Now, out of these 3 options, thinking of your budget first, which one of these options best makes sense to start with?
The middle one.
The middle one, perfect. Now, if you hit me with the middle one sounds good, but I still want to think about it, that's when I hit you with the same thing I hit Andre with earlier with the final expense. And I hang on it more in the mortgage protection market. I say, hey, listen, these checks are very sensitive. They pay money. The company pays money to be able to pull your records and do all those things. So if we let this check expire, we'll have to run a whole nother check. Let's say 2 weeks from now, you want to really think about it. You want to give it 2 weeks to think about it. 2 weeks from now, that check expires. When you run this check again, the company sometimes, to save money, they'll deny you off the bat, not even run another check. Where you will have to run the check yourself, will have to pay for it to run the check yourself, then give the results to the company, and then they have to override, which takes time and extra money. What I'll say is, if you're thinking about it, and you're really considering it, and you really want to, you're thinking about actually getting this policy, you just don't know where you're going to start at, then let's start at the lower one. And then we can always increase in 2 weeks. But if you're not really considering thinking about it in 2 weeks, and you're really not looking into getting this policy, and it makes sense, but it's not for you, let me know. And then I can finish the policy out. And then, we can just take this option away. So are you really thinking about getting it in 2 weeks, Greg? Or was it something that just didn't make sense to you where you don't want to proceed?
Oh, no. 2 weeks sound good. Yeah.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. I know the middle one sounds good for you. Why don't we start at the bottom one today? You take the 2 weeks to think about it, and then we can always increase to the middle one in 2 weeks. And here's what I want to also add. There's something called a free look. And this is this is the last close. When I say the free look and they ain't out on that, then I'm out of here. Within 30 days, you have an option to make sure everything I tell you is true. Everything the product is supposed to be, it is exactly what it is. And if something doesn't feel right to you, you have 30 days to free look the policy. They give you all your money back and avoids the contract. However, if you void the contract and you free look it, you won't have a chance of getting this policy again into another year. So just make sure if you do free look it, then you actually want to free look it. But if the policy meets your satisfaction and you want to upgrade in 2 weeks, we can easily upgrade. Does that sound good, Greg?
Yeah, that sounds good. But actually, Kyrie, I want the program. I know my family need it. I just really wasn't trying to make a decision today.
Okay, so again, Greg, what I would say do is, and this is my last close, let's put the policy in force. And what we'll do is, like I said, you're not making a decision today. You're just locking in your insurability. Does that make sense? Because this is the thing. You're not shopping the company's shopping you. Because if you make one payment and something happens tomorrow, the company's going to pay out the full 200,000. So the company is more at risk than you right now. So why don't we lock in your insurability so that way you have the coverage, and then you can decide if the coverage makes sense to you. Because earlier you told me that you wanted to make sure that if something happens to you, your wife doesn't have to get up and kind of move out of this house. And we made a little joke earlier that the number one reason women remarry is because of money. And you laughed about it earlier when I said I never want to make sure, like I want to make sure that if my wife leaves me, it's because of me, not because of money. And if my wife needs to remarry, it's because it makes her happy, not because of money. You know, because I like to take care of my business on this earth and out of this earth. That's kind of what we joked about earlier. So, I mean, like I would say, at this point, is it something you're thinking about or not thinking about? I know you're not trying to make a decision, but it's like one of those things where, you know, you want to lock in that insurability, because if you don't, you may lose that option.
No, that makes sense. I mean, all right, do it.
All right, here's Greg. I'm going to start at the lower amount, just because I want to make sure that this is something that fits in your budget that you can definitely handle. And then in 2 weeks, we can always increase it. Does that make sense? Or would you like to start at the original balance and you think that you're probably going to stay there?
Let's start at the lower amount. It's always easier to go up.
Perfect. And that's why I lock you in at that lower amount, because I know that lower amount, you're not thinking twice about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we lock in that insurability, because I keep hitting that the insurability is going to scare the person that really wants it.
Correct.
The person that don't want it, they're not scared about insurability because they ain't want it anyway. They're
Right.
going to tell you, it's all right. I mean, if I don't get it, I don't get it. That's the person that really don't want it. They'll say, if I don't get it, I don't get it. You know, just pack up, get up out of there. But the person that really want it, when you hit them with that insurability, they're like, oh, damn, I don't want to lose out on this opportunity of actually getting it. And it's making them respect the company, and it's making them respect your time. Because I ain't got time to keep coming back to the same house.
Right.
Because the chances are, when I leave your house this one time, even if you want it, I ain't coming back. Because I got 30 other appointments for the next week, 10 other appointments for the next couple of days. Like, I ain't coming back. I just don't have time. So you might not get this until another 3 weeks, if I have a chance to double back to you. So I need to get this done now so I can protect your family. And I'm thinking that in my head. I'm not saying that to them, but that's the kind of energy that I carry. And that's why I'm able to talk about that insurability, because for the right person that want it, the insurability scares them. That help?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it definitely helped. It definitely helped. I can't hear you.
Kyrie, you muted.
Okay, so yeah, I read what somebody just put on there. How do I respond to somebody who wants to think about the company or they don't trust the company? Well, you need to know that all of the companies that we represent are A-rated companies, and that they've been around for over 100 years. Most of all the companies that we represent has been around for more than 100 years. Mutual Omaha, AIG, Americo, John Hancock, all those companies, they've been around for over 100 years, at least 100 years or more. And if you're talking about Americo, you should have this. All of you should have this material when you get it. It's the strength stability sheet. It talks about how long the company been around. So Americo's was founded in 1946, right? I'm sorry, 1909. Sorry, 1909. That's over 100 years ago. And it kept the same name Americo for 100 years. So the company's not going anywhere. Okay? The next thing is you want to know what rating the company has with AM Best. AM Best is how financial companies are judged. Insurance companies, banks, they're judged by AM Best. They have an excellent rating through AM Best. The next thing is they have $7 billion of assets that are liquid, ready to be paying funds. They also have $27.9 billion in proceeds. That means assets under management, money that they can spend and circulate. So the bigger thing you need to think about is if your contract or your policy, if you tell me everything and you get approved and everything you said was true, they're not going to risk a lawsuit of paying $100,000 or $1 million or $10,000. They're not going to risk $27.9 billion for that $100,000 claim, that $10,000 claim, or that $1 million claim. Does that make sense? And then it's gonna open their mind, because a lot of times what people think is they're thinking they're accepting the company, but it's the other way around. The company is accepting them. The company is worth $27.9 billion. If you pay one payment of $100, they may have to pay you a $100,000 check. So they have to accept that risk, not you. You don't accept the risk. You accept the price of them accepting your risk first. And if you can explain to them that, then they're not shopping the company, because the company is founded. You don't shop Bank of America. You don't shop the credit union. You just make up your mind if you want to put your money in that bank account, or if that bank account makes best sense for you. But you don't question if the bank is going to be worthy. Make sense? I don't know who asked the question, but I hope that answered it. Oh, Andre asked it. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up there and end the call there. The call is recorded, so in case you came in late and you didn't hear everything, or you want to just repeat this call so that you can pick up some of these little nuggets that I put in here. But I want to start doing this a little bit more weekly. It's role playing. So next week, why don't you guys have some questions or some struggles that you're having, and in the beginning of the call, I'll have you guys drop things in the group chat. If you want, what you can do is you can privately inbox me on GroupMe some questions, so that way I can be ready to answer them next week, and I can have Greg get on there and he can kind of drop some jewels. I can kind of have Corey, and I want to start having other people's voice besides mine give their in-house presentations or some nuggets that they can drop on you guys. And I'm gonna start getting more newer agents on these calls too, or so that they can get a more sense of the business. But I hope I answered some of your questions. I hope I was able to kind of help you guys overcome that problem, because I've been hearing a lot of people say, I've been getting a lot of let me think about it. I've been getting a lot of yeah, I'm gonna do it, but not this month, next month. And a lot of time, and I'm like, I don't really get that often, and it's mainly because the way I set it up, just like I told you guys. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna end the call there. No questions. I'll talk to you guys next week, or I'll talk to you guys when you call me personally.
All right, bye, y'all.